Welcome back, everyone. I don't think I have ever done an update on the Mercedes, and I think that's because I stripped the steering or one of the gears inside the servo. But what I really never went over with you guys is the suspension, at least on the rear. I kind of briefly told you how it works. Oops. All right. It's probably a little bit too stiff for this car, for as light as it is, but just to give you a brief example of how that works. The motor, let's just say this is, just remember a teeter-totter, that's basically it. So the motor assembly would sit here, you got your gear, and then your tire somewhere back here. So the car hits a bump, it lifts up here, and then compresses a spring there. But instead of a spring, I have silicone in this area, but it's not this big, obviously. All right. And the silicone acts as a spring. So the further away you are, like in this particular case, you'd have a lot of leverage to be able to compress that spring a little bit, and you'd only need a little tiny movement at the spring, and you get a lot of travel this way. Whereas if it's more like this, it's going to require more effort to compress that spring. If that spring was further over here, right? It's going to require more effort to compress that spring, so you can almost infinitely adjust what kind of spring rate you want in that kind of setup. So just basically a teeter-totter, right? So that's how the rear suspension works. Works out quite well. The rear tires are very wide. Oh, here, let me grab a Kosho tire here. So let's see if I can try and hold on to this little tiny nub right here. Here is a Kosho Mini Z tire, right? So we're basically twice the width. Good for grip. These are foam tires from a slot car. I've narrowed the rear end axle portion significantly. I never finished putting vanes on the rear diffuser after destroying the front servo. I'm not in the mood to order another replacement servo at this point in time. In case those of you new, the front suspension basically works off of the flex, off of the arms. You want it softened up, you just shave it down some more, and then all the screw holes are countersunk, and then you can kind of see if I can do this one-handed, how that works. Yeah, pretty smooth. I really like that for a solid axle rear car. I think that's a really neat setup. I don't know how tunable it would be for like left and right balance, but car drove pretty well, surprisingly. It didn't come out of the corners very well, and that's because of the solid rear axle. Right, but straight line, grip, it was all there. And pretty fast considering I used a single cell LiPo that came out of the Mini Q chassis, and I used all the electronics that came out of the Mini Q chassis because I'm actually, well, in the process of got through stretching the chassis 5 millimeters approximately, and I did put Mini Z tires over the wheels. I just painted them black. So then get some electronics for this car one of these days. But in the meantime, I'll finish getting that mounted up, cutting wheel arches and whatnot, and that one will eventually be good to go. I do have a WL Toys transmitter. I think I have a 5-wire servo. I don't know, maybe just cheaper just to order another ESC all-in-one unit for this guy. Might be cheaper that way. I don't know. Yeah, it's something to think about. Anyway, have a good day.